Hello everyone. My name is Elise. Welcome to my channel. I hope you're all doing so good today. We are doing a new challenge series on my channel. We'll see how long it runs for, but this is essentially going to be my take on a read it or unhaul it type of style challenge. I'm calling this challenge now or never because I'm either reading it now or I'm never reading it. So this is partially a fun way for me to gamify reading off of my owned TBR shelves because my TBR collection is rather large and I want to make sure I'm actually reading these books. So the rules of this challenge are I'm going to be reading for a week and I'm going to do that based on the cubes that you see here. So the ones on this side are mine, the ones on the other side are my partner's. I'm going to select a cube and I'm going to put all of those books that are in that cube in a bowl and pull them out. I read multiple books at one time, so I am going to pick 2 books from the very beginning. And then if I finish one of those throughout the week, I will pull again. And I'm going to pull 1 book that's available via audio from my library and 1 book for me to physically read. Because again, I read multiple books at once, so I sort of need both on the go at one time. And honestly, in the background of this video, I'll probably be reading more than that, but these are the ones that I'll be featuring here. So I have already gone through the shelf that I'm interested in, so I'll show you that in a second. And I've divided them up into 2 bowls with all these slips of paper. This is the bowl that has audiobooks available right now for those books, and this is the bowl that does not, so I'll be reading it physically. Interestingly enough, there's more audiobooks available than I thought. I'm not sure if it's just the time of year or what, but there's a lot more in that bowl than the other one. So let me go ahead and take off the tripod for a second, show you the cube that I will be reading, which is actually this top paperback cube here. I only divide my books up based on hardcover or paperback and fiction and nonfiction. So this is a paperback fiction cube, and this has some older books for me, which is partly why I'm doing it first, to get to some of the backlist. So let me show you that a little bit more up close so you can see what's on there, and then we will go ahead and choose. All right, so here is the shelf in question. I'll move this so you can take a little peek, see what we have there, and let's see what we get. Okay, so you've seen a little bit of what is on that shelf in the first place. So we're gonna go ahead and pick our first book. We're gonna start with the audiobook section because there are more available here. Now I will say there are some books that I'm scared of, and there are some books that would be really convenient for me to get, mainly the Song of Achilles. So I am supposed to do a buddy read of the Song of Achilles in January. Picking that book out would be really good because then I could double up a little bit. But I think that's not very likely. So we shall see. The ones I'm intimidated, which I probably shouldn't even say because I'm jinxing myself. I'm intimidated by Autumn on that shelf. I'm intimidated by A Love Affair and also These Women because I think that's going to be really hard hitting. But without further ado, without more procrastination, let's just pick one of these books. Okay, so I'm going to zhuzh them around. All right, I have one. Oh God, I'm very nervous. I'll try and show it to you first. Is that the right side? Oh, fuck me. Oh God. Oh no. Okay, so I picked out Momemto Mori, which I don't know why. I was not anticipating this to be the one. Oh lordy. Okay, so let me grab the book and I'll talk a little bit about it. All right, so here we have Momemto Mori. This is by Muriel and I have this lovely edition. It's very old, and this one I specifically ordered because I really wanted this exact edition. I just love the people that it has on both sides and that it has the book and then the author on the scarves. So very excited to have this one. This is a mystery novel, and this specific edition is done by Time Inc., which I'm not even familiar with that publisher. Let's take a look. I think this is done by like Time magazine, which is kind of wild. So this book was originally published in 1958, and it actually has the little signature of who owned it maybe right before me. And they have it dated 1971 is when they first got that book. So that is lovely. So because I actually don't really know what this is about. Okay, so what I think this is about with looking at the preface in the beginning is it follows older characters, which fantastic. We love to see it. So I think they're all in their 70s or 80s. And Memento Mori in the Latin means everyone must die, or thou must die, I think is maybe the more direct translation. Let's see if it's in here. Remember that thou must die. Yes. So assumedly, all of the characters that you're following here are eventually going to die, I'm expecting. And yeah, it's just following like the deep interiority of their lives. And I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it. So, was not expecting this to be the one that got picked, but here we are. I guess that's the name of the game. So Memento Mori, I think I could really like it. It's gonna be my first Muriel Spark, which I know she's very much beloved. So hopefully it will be a good fit. All right, next up, we have my physical reads bowl, which is much smaller. I think there's only 6 in here in the first place. So let me zhuzh them around as well. Okay, I've got one. Oh my God, I'm so nervous now. Jeez, okay. Does that say what it, okay. Okay, this is the Undocumented Americans. Let me grab that one really quick. Now, this is a really interesting one. This was when the next time that I did my 5-star predictions, this was gonna be one of my backlist picks. So I'm gonna be getting to it early, which means I won't get to include it in that video. But I am really excited for this, and clearly I think I'm going to love it because it would be a 5-star prediction for me. I had it in my fiction shelves, and it is technically fiction. It's kind of this blend of nonfiction and fiction. These are all based in real stories and interviews that the author did with undocumented Americans, but she has changed details of those stories to, 1, protect their confidentiality, but 2, to also kind of, I'm assuming, to tell a bigger like macro story with all of them together, but I don't know that for sure. So I put it in fiction because I know there are a lot of details that have been changed, although the stories are really rooted in the real experiences of undocumented Americans. So this is, I think, 6 stories if I'm remembering correctly. I've heard that it's so fantastic. This one is done by Carla Cornejo, Villavicencio, and it was a National Book Award finalist. This is published by One World, the imprint with Penguin Random House. There's also a One World that is an independent press, but this is not from there. So yeah, we have our 2 picks. Wow, this is really unexpected, which again, like I should have anticipated that it would be unexpected because I'm pulling them from a bowl. But yeah, these are the 2 books that I'm going to be reading in this vlog. We will see how it goes. So once I start one of them, I'll probably give you an update, I imagine, when I hit a halfway point on either of the books. Off we go. All right, we're ready for the first check-in. It is the next day, and we're at a little bit of a weird angle because we have a precious baby angel who is in my lap and cannot be disturbed right now. So sorry if it's a little bit shaky. So I've read almost the first half of Memento Mori. I think I'm just over 100 pages in. Let me check. Yeah, I'm at 109. So I would say it's just about halfway. And I understand a little bit more of what this book is about. So in my clip yesterday, I really was very vaguely talking about it, and that's because this edition does not have a blurb in it. So I could not read a blurb. I was kind of skimming some details from the introduction that's written. This is following a very wide cast of characters. I was honestly surprised at how many characters are involved. And like I said yesterday, they're all either in their 70s or 80s, and a large amount of them all live in this hospital for the elderly, or they take care of the elderly at this hospital. It's kind of all the drama that goes on there, but also they're like family members and friends and caretakers that come to visit the hospital as well. So really big cast of characters, and this feels so cozy already. I am not sure what exactly about it, if it's the fact that I'm listening to the audiobook and everyone has British accents and it is narrated by someone who's older. But I think a big part of it is that we're just following their day-to-day goings on, and that does feel pretty cozy, even though in the background there is sort of this looming, but I would say the tone is fairly light, concern that someone has been kind of prank calling, cold calling one of the ladies and keeps telling them Memento Mori, basically, remember that thou must die. And that's all they say to them. So they're trying to figure out who keeps calling them and telling them that. We have already had a death in here of one of the maybe like side characters, more minor characters. It was very quick. I'm assuming more people are going to die, and hopefully we figure out who is calling. I think that's kind of like the central mystery of this. So I'm enjoying it so far. It is low on plot. Again, we're just getting those like everyday goings on. So if you like that, you could really enjoy this book. I am enjoying the tone, and again, it just feels really cozy to me. So yeah, enjoying this so far. I have not started the other book yet. It's right here on the pillow. So I'm probably going to read the first story tonight, and then I'll check back in with you tomorrow and see where I get. Okay, I'm going to try and fill you in fairly quickly because I am running late and I have a lot to catch you up on. So it's been a couple days since I filmed. I think we're now on day 5 of the vlog, and last I checked up with you I think was on day 2, so I have not filmed in 2 days. So we did end up doing the floating sauna, which was a success. I didn't take my phone with me because I didn't want it to get water damage, but I would highly recommend if you're in the Seattle or Seattle surrounding area. It was lovely. You're kind of on this like little floating barge that has a dry sauna on it. And then it's on Lake Washington. It's in Kirkland. So you can plunge, cold plunge into Lake Washington. And I think the day that we did it, Lake Washington was at 43 degrees. So it was a really perfect temperature for cold plunging. And we kind of just went back and forth in and out because the sauna was so hot. Let me tell you, my God. So the cold plunge felt amazing. Other people took photos and videos. So if they send me any, I'll insert some stuff here. Otherwise, I'll insert, like the website image so you can get an idea of what it actually looks like. But yes, highly recommend. And then we had a lovely dinner afterwards, had the most amazing artichoke dish I've ever had. It was spectacular. And then yesterday was also pretty jam-packed. My husband and I went out to brunch together at one of our favorite local spots that we absolutely love. Have a couple images of that here. Had a delicious sandwich, and the view is always amazing. It looks out at Green Lake. So later in the evening, I went to the Kraken game. That was also so lovely and fun. I don't know a lot about hockey, but my friend is trying to teach me the ways of hockey, trying to get into the mindset. I got aggressive with the other team's players. We were there to enjoy the full experience, and we had amazing seats too, so that was also very fun. Let me give you a book update because I have a feeling I'm going to finish this later today. So I want to update you once more before I finish it. I'm now on page, 171. The thing I wanted to update on, and this is still early on in the plot in the first half of the book, is that you quickly after the first murder, you get another murder, and we're starting to develop this pattern that more and more people in the cast of characters we're following are getting the phone calls from an anonymous person that says, remember that thou must die. So there's now quite a collection of people who are concerned about these phone calls, and the police are looking into it, but we still don't really know what's happening. I was having this thought of like, oh, because these characters are older and they're dying, are we supposed to assume that there is truly something nefarious happening with these phone calls and there's been foul play? Or are they just old and they're dying? And I think the book is trying to intentionally make us think that. So I'll be really curious to see how the end plays out, to see if it leans one direction or the other. But that was my most recent thought I had about this. So I'm going to finish this today because I'm about to head over to my friend's place to play some board games, and I'm going to walk there and back. So I'll be listening to the audiobook, and I don't have very much left, so I will complete it. So hopefully later tonight I will have an update on the finale of this. And then I haven't yet updated you on the Undocumented Americans. I've read the first 2 stories and I've been trying to space them out, only reading one a day. I started it 2 days ago. And I do think this collection really needs the space to breathe between stories, because this is talking about like such a large population of people, like we're talking about people in the millions here. I think the author wants us to like see all the experiences as like separate, unique, whole experiences, and reading it all at once, I think it would become too much of an amalgamation and a generalization, and I don't want that to happen. So I've enjoyed spacing it out. The first story is about day laborers, particularly about day laborers in Staten Island, which, as we know, is a very wealthy island, mostly filled with white people. And it follows the aftermath of one of the storms there, and how day laborers were really the emergency response, because the government did not have an appropriate response to the disaster there. And that being the kind of first time that the day laborers felt like they were actually accepted into the community or part of the community, but they were also heavily exploited as well. So it's trying to kind of show you that balance, that experience, that tension in this area. And then the second story is following undocumented Americans who helped in the aftermath of 9/11. Again, exploited to many different degrees. A lot of them walked away with long-term health complications. In a lot of cases, those complications are fatal, and they're not really properly compensated for all the unsafe conditions that they were put through in the aftermath of that, trying to clean up. And it follows day laborers again, it follows maids, it follows delivery boys, all these types of professions that you can find that there tends to be a larger amount of undocumented Americans in. And yeah, again, like how much they truly helped. I mean, undocumented Americans showed up in droves to try and clean up in the aftermath. And again, much to their own detriment, because it was not safe working conditions and they were not set out with the proper equipment in order to keep themselves safe. So those have been the 2 stories so far. Great stories. This is, I think the author calls it a work of creative nonfiction. So I maybe did have it in the wrong cube, but that's okay. That's okay. The one thing I'm not loving about this so far is the author does have these like interjections of herself and her own opinions in this, and I found them a little bit jarring. It's a minor thing, but my personal preference is that that wouldn't be in there. But again, she's the one writing this, so she gets to do whatever she wants. So yeah, enjoying this a lot so far. It's very informative, and I'm going to keep taking my time with it and spacing out the stories kind of one per day. So I'll probably read another one tonight. When I check in with you later today, hopefully I will have read another one of these and finished this. So that's the update for now. Off to play some games, and I will see you all later. Bye. All right, it is significantly later than when I did my last update, but I have now finished both of the books, so we're gonna chat about both of them, and I definitely have some thoughts. So I finished Momemto Mori first, and I will say I was really enjoying this one leading up to the ending, but I did feel let down in that last like 15-20% of the book. While the tone of the book was cozy and sort of like plodding along in a good way, I thought, I was hoping that it was going to build toward the end, but it didn't really feel that way. It kind of just felt like things really abruptly happened, and it felt anticlimactic. We just kind of like got all these facts that summed up some of the mysteries that were happening, and it was over. And I felt like a little jarred by how quickly things just fanned out. So I'm sort of bummed that the ending didn't hold up to the same enjoyment level I was having for the rest of the book. So for that, I would say this is like I liked it, I didn't love it. I would definitely recommend it if you want something that is a more cozy, traditional type of mystery. And I really did love that this had older characters exclusively featured. And it is trying to do this play on how we don't take the elderly seriously in a lot of ways. And as people get older, we start to infantilize them, especially infantilize their mind, and how that is problematic. So I enjoyed the book for that reason, because I thought it was well done the way that it integrated that idea across the book. So yeah, enjoyed this, but didn't absolutely love it because I really felt let down by the end. But I could see why lots of people enjoy this book. So that was the end of Momemto Mori for me. And then we had The Undocumented Americans by Carla Cornejo Villavicencio. And when I last checked in about this, I had read the first 2 essays of 6, like creative nonfiction. I will say I really enjoyed those first 2. The third essay took me off guard. It is the most autobiographical essay by far of the entire collection. And there were just some things that didn't strike me well as I was reading it. So for example, in that story, there is a sentence about her mother going through a sexual assault, and it's really just like dropped into that paragraph without a lot of context around it, and it felt strange to me. It felt off that would be included in the way that it was included. I couldn't tell why it was being put there. I think at best maybe it was put in to show how desensitized and maybe like people have come to undocumented Americans being treated poorly. But that, honestly, that's me being generous and assuming best intent by the author. I didn't like the way that it was included so abruptly and casually without seeming to expand upon what the rest of that essay was talking about. And then once that happened, I couldn't stop noticing a couple other choices that I felt unclear about why it was being included. And most of them have to do with the author's insertion of herself and her own opinions about what she's reporting on in subsequent essays. So after the third essay, we sort of go back to the essays being centered around a specific theme. So for example, there is one that's centered around Flint, Michigan and the water crisis there and how that specifically impacted undocumented Americans. I definitely like the essays better when they had that type of a central theme to draw it together. And then the last thing that I'll just mention about this that kind of struck me as strange were the descriptions of people that she's interviewing. I felt like sometimes they were somewhat caricature-y, and it was like you'd get these 1 to 2 stereotypical sentences describing what people looked like, and sometimes I felt like it was pretty insulting the way that she was describing people. So for example, one of the ones that I marked is near the end on page 163, and it says, Ricardo Reyes, a 21-year-old recent Yale graduate, is one of those kids. He's an American citizen. He has the face and demeanor of an adorable bludgeoned baby seal. His parents work in a garment industry in Los Angeles, and then it starts talking about his family and on and on and on. But like, why is she comparing her interview subject to a bludgeoned baby seal? I don't know. It's just some of the... I think there were some things that really just were not to my taste and were not to my style. There's so much good content in this book, and I do want to be clear about that. Like, I think it's well worth the read. You get to learn a lot about these specific subsets of undocumented Americans throughout the country and how specific events impacted them in particular, and just the like sheer amount of discrimination that they have to face and prejudice that they have to face. I think this book does a wonderful job of reporting on that, but some of the stylistic choices, I would say, in this being creative nonfiction just did not gel well with me, but clearly have resonated well for other people because this book has so much praise wrapped around it. So yeah, that was my strange reading experience of The Undocumented Americans. If you have read this, I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts on it. I know this came out a little while ago, so I'm curious if this is more just a symptom of me reading it 5 years after it came out, or what. I'm not really sure. So yeah, let me know if you've read this. Let me know if you've read Momemto Mori either. And that is going to wrap up this first ever Now or Never vlog. This did really push me to read some books that this one wasn't going to read anytime soon, and this one had been looking forward to. And although my reading experience kind of near the end of both of them became a little bit more complicated than just the unadulterated love I was hoping to have for them both, I am really happy that I read both of them and didn't end up DNFing and unhauling them, which is great. Hopefully you enjoyed watching, and I will see you all in the next episode that is probably going to be coming sometime soon. So I'll see you then. Bye.